Hello everyone, my name is Kasaun E, and welcome to my lecture series on liberalism. I would like to take up this big project with all of you because this concept that you probably hear a lot is grossly misunderstood. And so what we're going to do is break it down together. So the title of this lecture series is called Liberalism, Its Origins, Development, and Forms. Well, this is important because the term liberalism is misunderstood. And the rhetorical uses are very damaging and needs to be clarified. Take these three examples. Here, the first one, liberalism is defined as the way weak-minded people think. The second one here, liberalism is portrayed as sort of an art of excuses by lazy people who use the government to take money from hardworking people. And finally, here, liberalism is portrayed as a dire medical condition. Political banter. It's all good, especially in America. We're used to this now. We have conservatives and liberals fighting this eternal battle for good and evil for the soul of the United States of America. But enough is enough. We need to understand what these terms mean. So while we want to make fun of each other and ridicule each other, at least let's be clear about one of the principles, one of the ideas that is fundamental to American political tradition. And so what I want to do is bring conservatives and liberals all here together to talk about what this term means. Okay? It's important for conservatives to understand the depth of this concept, liberalism, and it's very important for liberals to understand what they are holding on to or professing. And likewise, liberals would do well to understand better and more deeply the concept of conservatism, which we'll do one day. So my objective is to present an overview of this concept, a concept that, again, is at the heart of the American political tradition. So let me just tell you what my do's and don'ts are, the things I'm going to do and the things that I'm not going to do. One, I'm not going to diss conservatives because I'm talking about liberalism. I'm not going to play a hate on conservatism. That's not my job. And I'm not passing out liberal crowns for President Barack Obama and Senator Bernie Sanders. No. Instead, what I'm going to do is present the ideological origins and the historical origins of this concept, trace the historical development, and present a few key people who played a huge role in formulating this concept and outline some of the variants of liberalism. That's our task. So what does this mean? Well, looking ahead, we're going to address certain topics, certain issues, certain problems and questions. For example, the conceptual issue. We know, I keep telling you this, liberalism is a complicated term, it's a big term, it has so many meanings, right? So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to delineate these different concepts and meanings. For example, there's classical liberalism, there's modern liberalism, European liberalism, American liberalism, black liberalism, feminist liberalism, on and on and on. And the most infamous strand of them all, neoliberalism. Yes, neoliberalism. So what are we going to do? So we're going to isolate these things and figure out what is meant by each one of them. Yes, that's our goal. And we're going to talk about the nature of the concept itself. Is it a philosophy? Is it an ideology? Is it a political doctrine? It could be, and it is for many people. It's one or another, or maybe it's a combination. It's also an economic system for many others. And let me just give you an example very quickly on why this is very important to analyze and break down so critically. So for those who hold liberalism as an economic system, you have some who see it as a capitalist system and others who see the same concept as a socialist system. You got to scratch your head like, wait a minute, what's going on here? The same word for two warring ideals? Interesting. So what we have to do is look at some of the historical roots. That's one of the things we're going to do. And that means we're going to trace the concept to its origins. Some people go far as Plato. They go back to the Greco-Roman tradition and say, aha, here is when baby liberalism was born. Others say, no, It's not that far back. We can locate it in, let's say, not ancient history, but in sort of modern European history or the pre-modern European history. And some people begin the legacy of liberalism in, let's say, maybe 17th century, from guys like Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, who are considered the founding fathers. Once we start locating some of the places, and you can pick and choose where you want to go, where you want to begin. I'm going to show what some scholars say and the debates among them. And what we're going to do from that point is talk about the historical development. And this is going to be very important for us here. Why? Because liberalism evolved in very unique ways, according to certain individuals who had certain understandings of the concept, and also according to the social and political paradigm the concept is functioning in conjunction with other ideals and ideas and ideologies. See, liberalism interacted with so many other concepts that it's just sort of like a big soup of so many different things at this point. And so that makes the concept very complex. And so we want to break that down and see what's what. Ultimately, what I will try to do with you is find out if there are any fundamental principles that can help ground the concept, to ground it in some kind of consistent meaning or pattern of thought or action among its, in many ways, opposing and varying variations. Are there at all any fundamental principles? We're going to see. We're going to gauge whether or not there is an overarching liberal idea or soul, or are there just simply different layers of liberalism which don't interact, just a new wave, a new trend, a new style of liberalism. We're going to see. This gets very interesting. So our ultimate question would be, what does liberalism entail as a general concept? And then how is liberalism explained according to certain people? What are the boundaries of this concept, liberalism, if there are any? Are there ways that we should not use liberalism? What is the structure of liberalism? Are there any value structures or priorities within this concept or within this variance? How flexible is this concept of liberalism? Are there strict incorrigible features? Is there a core? Or are there any ideological genes you can find in these different variations? There's so many questions to think about. We might not get to all of them, but we're going to arm ourselves with the analytical skills and background information to pierce beneath the surface of this madness. So our approach is simply to examine some of the key figures who have influenced this term, if not altogether created it, as if they're the gods of liberalism. So we're going to try to find out who the founders are and who are some of the great champions or luminaries of this term. Individuals such as Plato, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Isaiah Berlin, Ludwig von Mises, John Rawls, and others. We're going to look at their interpretations. We're going to look at the emphasis they place on the concept, or the burden or responsibility they place on this concept. Is it a moral concept? Is it an issue that revolves around morality or ethics? Or is it a concept that revolves around individualism and collectivism? We're going to get into that. And then we'll talk briefly about different liberal institutions that have carried the torch of these ideas, and also liberal movements, the very people who have created these institutions and still to this day profess liberalism or denounce liberalism. In conclusion, I'm going to present here some sources and some readings that you can refer to in preparation for the next lecture. The first is a website, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. There's the link. There's an entry on liberalism. Check that out. The second one here is a book that I'm going to be using so that we all can follow through, and it's a very good presentation on liberalism. It's by Michael Frieden, and it's called Liberalism, A Very Short Introduction. I'll be presenting more readings, more texts if you're interested, so get ready. And finally, if you have any questions or comments or concerns or corrections, in fact, feel free to send some comments. Maybe I can respond to you directly or address whatever remarks you have in the following discussion. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.